Welcome to Ready, Set, Hunt. Whether you're an aspiring, new, or seasoned hunter, join us as we share our experiences and learn from other hunters around the country. We got Tony Stark over here. That's what you look like when you wear those glasses.
Tony wears these type of glasses?
Yeah, I feel like he wears like glasses with like colored lenses.
My wife has my other pairs. These are my daytime ones. I have other shades, or another shade, a darker one for night, just to help with
blue light.
all the blue light and stuff looking at screens, because I'm a late night screen guy. So
yeah, no good. It's no good for you, but we all do it.
It's not good.
We all do
Well,
it.
welcome, listeners.
Welcome.
That's on the agenda. It just says welcome, listeners.
Welcome, listeners. Make sure that you're not scrolling late at night. Blue light is no good for you.
This is not an infomercial for blue light.
And if
classes, by the way.
And if you're needing to get up early for duck hunting, it's not good to be scrolling late at night. It messes with your circadian rhythms, and you're going to need as much sleep as you can get.
I don't feel like I get enough sleep, like mornings that I need to get up for hunting ever, especially when I'm with a group of guys. It's usually let's stay up late, and it's just fun being together. Don't have to worry about work or something like that. But
I just have accepted that hunting season is not restful in any way, shape, or form. It's just you're up late, you're up early, up late again, up late early.
Does your wife have the perception that you're just having the time of your life, and she like knows, quote unquote, air quotes right now, that it's hard, but there's no concept, like visual concept for actually?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I try and explain things as best I can to be like, yeah, you're up late, then you're up early, and usually, especially for duck hunting, it's like very physically taxing in terms of like getting the boat in and getting your decoys out and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know if I've ever started a duck hunt not like super sweaty. Part of that is
you must be doing it wrong.
Well, no, Chris. Part of that is that for the first few years that we duck hunted together, I was the only one who had waders, and so I was the one deploying all the decoys.
Peter,
remember that?
That was strategic. Okay, that was strategic.
Yeah, that's really kind of you, my friend.
To be fair, we operated in very minimal water areas. Like a lot of it was muck boot accessible, right? Except some of the deep, there's some deeper parts, but we're never like in those deep parts. We're trying to like ride the.
We try and rock the shallows, but I don't think we're ever really shallow enough where you can only get by with a pair of muck boots, Chris.
It was a bit of a price thing for me at the beginning, even though you can get a nice pair of waders for $99 off was it Tidewee or?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it like super nice waders.
No,
but
they're nice, Peter. They're nice.
They'll do the trick.
Real. It's like you got to do it with a little bit of accent. They're nice. They're real
nice. Real nice.
They're discount nice.
I'm waiting for First Light to drop their waders.
You're not buying those. Do not buy them.
They're supposed to be dropped like in the next couple of weeks. Apparently, I'm just waiting to see what the price tag is going to be, because if they're going to be priced anywhere similar to what like Sitka waders, it's going to be almost $1,000 for a pair of waders.
You think $799 or like something like that?
Yeah, probably. I can't justify that when I have my pair of $150
They better be
waders
leak proof and fireproof and bulletproof and shotgun proof, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just like so much money to spend on some waders. You can buy a cheap pair. You can buy 8 cheap pairs that are going to get you through your whole life.
I don't know. I feel like if with really cheap waders, and we're already jumping into the subject here, but with really cheap waders, I feel like you could maybe get, depending on how much you hunt in them in a single season, I feel like you could probably get 2, maybe 3 seasons out of them before they're going to start springing a leak. Would you say that's pretty fair?
I don't have data on that to verify or validate. What I can say is I've noticed how people store them, and I'm talking to myself, how you store your own waders is probably pretty key, because if you're folding them all up and they're getting creases in there and then they're getting
Yeah.
dried out or something like that, that's going to
Mine
start
are mine are
wearing.
always hanging in my garage and not folded over. They're on a hanger and they're hanging vertical. So because
Hmm.
I don't want to have to buy waders every 2-3 years. Just get a decent pair, and
I
it
think
should
you
last you a
inspired.
long
I got
time.
to get those out and hang them up.
Well, it might
I
be too
have them
late. The
laid.
damage is already done, Chris.
No, I have them laid real nice. Like,
Okay.
uh, they're not all crumped up or anything like that. But
Yeah. But yeah, if you haven't guessed, guys, we're talking about duck hunting because
dude, I'm
that's
excited for duck
for a
hunting.
lot of
By the
people
way,
that's like one of the first seasons that opens up, especially if you have an early duck season in your neck of the woods. So we have an early teal season this year. Minnesota did reinstate it. It was kind of like a experimental for, I think it was like a 3 or 4 year period, maybe even a 5 year period. And they were going to see how hunters liked it and did hunter surveys and everything. And then they decided to bring it back for another year. So we are going to be hunting early teal season this year, which has
as
become kind of
usual.
a fun tradition for us. We'll hunt teal in the morning and then we go and hunt doves in the evening. So it's pretty exciting. But yeah, so duck hunting is pretty fresh on the mind.
Are we
Um,
entertaining bringing our eldest on this opener with Dove?
we could. I would say that they're probably old enough. They've been on duck hunts. It's just a matter of keeping them entertained during the middle portion of the day where there's nothing really going on. We usually shoot rifles, make sure check our zeros, do some longer range shooting for our western trips, since it's like
Mm-hmm.
right at the beginning of September. Um, so
Grab lunch, hang out,
yeah, it's
and then
been
get
it's
out.
been kind of historically more of a guy's trip, and then usually we'll bring the kiddos out for duck opener. But I don't know, we can do it however you want this year.
Well, yeah, I think now that I think about it, duck opener is probably the easier one because you're not doing multi different things. We're not shooting rifles typically on
Yeah,
duck opener, so yeah. But we're talking decoys and duck calls is the episode title this week,
yep,
and duck season is creeping up upon us. We are at the end of July here.
yep. As we
Into
record here,
August, into August is when although I already have the fever. Like I've seen a couple mallards here or there flying a woody or something, and I'm like, and then there's been a couple humid, kind of lower temperature days that just hint at that fall smell, like on the water or the mucky backwaters or
mm-hmm.
something like that. That I can't get enough of. I still have to register our stupid canoe. So,
Are we going to even get the canoe out this year? That's the question.
I
Hopefully,
mean, it wouldn't be hard to bring with. We're just strap it down onto the boat.
yeah. Then who draws the short straw? Who gets to sit in the canoe?
No, I'm saying we could bring the canoe for some adventures if we spot somewhere to get into or want to paddle
Yeah, that's true.
somewhere in and check it out. But
Mm-hmm.
no, we have a nice setup right now, and I think if we I mean, we could even entertain a Facebook special boat for $100 or so, and not go all out with it, but put a coat on it or something like that, and have it in tow. Because then you
Yeah,
double your capacity with somebody coming out.
yeah. That is true. Um, That's very true. Yeah, it's I think this episode we're gonna kind of talk about, for you beginner hunters or maybe people who are interested in duck hunting, really just the stuff that you need to get started, like the essentials, and then maybe you know basic tactics for getting into duck hunting, just things to think about. Maybe even if you have a boat, can you use it as a duck boat? A duck boat, it's kind of whatever you need it to be in a way, but the big thing on the duck boat is camo. But let's talk about some basic gear, Chris. What are we thinking that we're going to need absolutely just to get started? And this is going to be very subjective to your area and the bodies of water that you have access to, because we're going to be focused on water hunting. We're not going to really dive into field hunting too much. So water hunting specific, what do you need here in Minnesota, we're super blessed in the fact that we are the land of 10,000 lakes. We have
I think
probably
it's
just as
12,000 some
something
lakes,
like
isn't it?
that. Well, in Minnesota and Wisconsin, I was getting to a pissing match about who has more lakes. Spoiler alert: it is Wisconsin, but
Is
Minnesota,
it?
it is. Yeah, they have more.
Ooh, let's talk to Google right now.
Yep. Here we go.
But continue.
We can't have an episode without hitting up the Google AI.
I typed in who has more lay and it auto populated Minnesota or Wisconsin.
See, it's a commonly searched thing. I'm pretty sure Wisconsin is more.
Try new AI mode.
Ooh.
Not interested at this time. Wisconsin claims to have more lakes than Minnesota with around 15,000 lakes, while Minnesota is known as the land of 10,000 lakes.
It actually has.
However, the definition of what constitutes a lake is what actually varies between the two states.
So I've had this conversation with someone before. Like, when does a pond become a lake? And I can't like actually define it. It's just kind of like one of those things where it's like you'll know when you see it. You know what I mean?
So here's a breakdown. Wisconsin claims to have 15,000, according to Google, 15,074 lakes. Caveat includes smaller unnamed bodies of water
Okay.
in that count. Minnesota, officially known as the land of 10,000 lakes, but actually has 11,842 that are lakes that are 10 acres or more. So Minnesota specifies
A lake
what
is
is a
something 10
lake.
acres or more.
So the varying definitions, Wisconsin counts smaller lakes, unnamed ponds as lakes as well, while
Ooh,
Minnesota uses a 10-acre minimum to count their lakes.
interesting. So Wisconsin is padding their stats.
Yeah. And I
They're
feel like
stuffing the ballot box.
I feel
Dirty
like
Wisconsin. What are you guys
that
doing over there?
that's just
That's just
grow up.
dishonest.
Grow up, right?
Come on, Wisconsin. I
Have a
expected more from you.
You want to actually have a real debate, you have to be on the same playing field. You can't count small little puddles as a lake. Come on.
Man, by that logic, I get a lake in my backyard every time it rains
Dude,
heavy
there's
enough.
lakes everywhere, man. like
Anyway,
with that said.
back to the subject at hand here. We live in Minnesota. We've got a lot of bodies of water. We are part of what's considered the prairie pothole region, which is just kind of a duck factory. You know, we have a lot of good nesting for birds and everything. So we've kind of got a large choice of where we can go hunting. If you're hunting, you know, somewhere else in the Midwest or maybe out west or whatever, and you're in an area that doesn't have as many bodies of water, your options are going to be more limited. But here we have options. We're able to hunt with a boat, without a boat, lakes that have boat launches, bodies of water that have no boat launch, so we have to get in there with a canoe. You know, shallow ponds where, like I said, you don't even need a boat. And we've hunted them all, and they all bring about their own challenges and, you know, certain fun aspects. Like Chris, for example, as a matter of fact, I drove past that our kind of our go-to honey hole where we went with the kids a few years ago and limited out that one morning. I drove past it the other day just to kind of see where water levels are at, and with the amount of rain we've been getting this summer, it was the water was pretty high, which is a pretty big difference from the past, you know, 2-3 years. That was
Yeah, it's nice to have the option. We didn't have the option the previous year, just the water level was so low. But we were talking about getting into basic gear, and now that you've
yeah.
defined that we're, lakes that are 10 acres or more, uh, first thing you gotta, for those who've never duck hunted, you have to blend in. You can't be ducks are great at seeing, silhouettes. They're great at seeing people and
hmm
something that doesn't look like it should be there.
They have excellent eyesight. Like think of most birds do. Like eagles, hawks, birds of prey, turkeys also have very good eyesight. Ducks have excellent eyesight, and they will pick you off, and you know they can see you from a ways away. So
Mhm.
yeah, Chris,
So yeah,
continue on with camo.
blending in is absolutely the first non-negotiable. You can't go out there in just a random sweatshirt unless you have some sort of blended cover above you,
Yeah.
or you're tucked underneath some trees where the ducks can't really see down in the trees, and then you're
hmm
shooting across water. you could maybe get away with a poor camo or green or something in nature. Solid
Yeah.
colors aren't usually where you want to go, but you can.
Yeah.
I've worn a solid beige color sitting in the reeds before,
It's all
but
about
there's a lot.
movement.
Yeah, but we usually throw like a leafy top or something over the top of us to break up our silhouette. So
Hmm.
with that said, I think the other non-negotiables is obviously you have to be know where your shotgun shoots. You have to have a, a firearm that is appropriate for the hunting, and make sure you have the right load that's not toxic according to state
Yeah.
law. If you know if you're in that area types thing, but
What would be the most common gauge that you would see in a duck blind, Chris?
20 or 12.
I would say 12 would be the most common, but probably
Mm.
followed up by 20. Yeah.
20 probably or 12 probably because of the ability to go after geese with a little more oomph.
Hmm.
But you can take down a goose with a 20 gauge that you know are a good
With the
shot
right,
and
right
you have
shot
the right
size and
shot.
everything.
So
Yep.
next thing would I think I would go to um well, no particular order. A good set of muck boots like that are up to your almost your knees, you know, calf high or higher,
Yep. Rubber boots.
or waders. There's a lot of options out there. You don't have
Yeah.
to get crazy expensive. Just go find something that'll work. It
Hmm.
does get mucky, so you got to kind of know how to walk through the muck. You will get sucked down into the mud. And then I think the next thing I would go to, even before like calls, is you have to have decoys. You have to give a
Yeah.
visual for the ducks to want to come to you. You can't just sit on this. Well, you could. I guess you
You
could sit
could.
in some reeds, but you're not going to have anything that draws them or wants them to sit down. In
I would say
yeah,
the only way you can hunt ducks without decoys is if you do a ton of scouting and you know exactly to a T right where those ducks are going to want to lay down, like where they're going to want to fly into and, and rest on the water.
you know where we went out last year, and we hucked the boat in, and it was
Yeah.
terrible to huck it in. I think when we saw all the birds landing, they were landing across the water. So I
Yep.
think if we go out there again to that spot, which I would imagine we will now since we have a canoe because it'll just be
Hmm.
easier to access. We could have probably sat over there. It looked like a little bit of a nesting ground or something like that.
Yeah, well, and the reason we picked the spot we did, and we're going to get into tactics and setup and stuff in a little bit, but the reason we kind of set up where we did is because the wind forecast for that day was putting us where
Wrong. It was wrong.
well, it was putting us, it was supposed to be where we set up, like where we set up
Yeah.
was supposed to be ideal from a wind perspective, but if I remember correctly, there was almost no wind that morning. Like the wind
So
forecast was like very different, and so so the birds were setting up, or were basically coming into the water at a very different spot than where we
mhm.
anticipated them to
Yeah,
be.
you mentioned wind. For those who don't know, how do ducks like to land and take off when there's wind?
Ducks like to fly into the wind with the wind in their face.
Just like an
Um,
airplane, huh?
Yep, because they need that extra air to give them loft, because they're not, if you watch a duck land in the water, it appears graceful, but they're fairly heavy birds. And
It's a nice splash.
if they don't have the wind to kind of maybe slow them down a little bit, it really is kind of like watching an airplane land. And so it's always fun watching the geese coming in when there's no wind, because it's not, it's like, it's kind of graceful but not at the same time. um
It's
but
also when you set up with the wind at your back and those birds catch that wind, they will figure out exactly how the wind is blowing and they will set up coming straight in at you for those who have never
mhm,
duck hunted. Um, and that's fantastic because it slows them down. So
makes them easier to hit.
they're easier to hit. And it's beautiful to be honest. Like to
It is.
see the sun coming up and it's the red and golds coming,
Yeah.
through
And
this
you see
cloud.
those cupped wings coming
Oh
in, and they're
man,
kind of and they're kind of doing this thing, where they're kind of rocking side to side a little bit. Oh,
there's
it's
little that's more exciting from a hunting standpoint than good duck hunting.
yep.
It is so much fun when the action's good. They're good eating if you know how to cook them right. Um, but other than that, do you have? I would say probably then a call. If you are at all proficient, I'm on the very low side of proficiency. If
Yeah.
Peter died out there, I might be able to get some attention from some ducks, but I'm probably not calling them in.
Yeah, I think duck calls can be very important. More so for things like mallards and stuff. Mallards are a lot more vocal. Other duck species they can be vocal, but they're not as vocal as mallards. And so, um, I have found more often than not that having a decent set of decoys is going to be far more important than calling.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you're not very good at calling, a lot of the time you can actually do more harm than good. So
100%. Totally agree
I
with
would
that. We've
before
witnessed that.
yeah, I would say like make sure you're pretty well practiced before going out and trying to call in some ducks. And big tip here, like if the ducks are already coming towards you and they're looking at you, don't call because they're already coming. Like in
Mm-hmm.
most cases, if ducks are up really high and maybe they're flying away or maybe they're kind of circling, kind of checking things out, seeing if the decoy spread is something they're interested in, then you can maybe call just to kind of make it seem a little more lifelike or just to kind of get their attention and say, hey, we're down here. But calling for beginners is, I don't know, you got to be a little careful. Got to be a little careful with that.
Are we gonna put? Are we gonna make some sort of topper for the boat this year? Because I'm thinking about when we park in the reeds and we've had flybys or they're coming over and they're checking it out and they're doing the circles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're looking. We have great cover on the front and around the boat, but we haven't yet gone to that level of putting something on top. And
Yeah.
I think I'd really like to personally look at something like that because then
I have a bunch of
you thread in the reeds and different things or the camo in there.
PVC pipe that I acquired that we can kind of build a blind with. So I just gotta get the boat over here so we can kind of build that.
Probably do a sloped,
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Yeah. Let's get back to gear. So yeah, your duck calls. I would say that's not maybe the best like beginner level stuff. You don't need duck calls to duck hunt.
You need decoys because without decoys, you have nothing to attract them. We already established
Yep.
that. You need to be able to stay dry, so you got
Mm-hmm.
to have some sort of boots or waders,
I would just
and then
recommend waders
you got to
out of the
you got to
gates.
blend in. You got to
Yep.
blend in.
Yep.
If you're
Let's
wearing
talk.
the wrong camo too,
Yeah, you wear a
like
camo
you got to
that
look
blends
around.
in. Yeah, you're gonna want something that has like reeds because most of the audience that we're talking to is probably going to be hunting in like reed areas. We're probably, I mean, some of you might live in Arkansas or whatever where you have a lot of flooded timber, and obviously you're going to want camo that blends in with timber better. But for the majority of duck hunters, it's probably going to be you know reeds
Cattails,
and
reeds. Yeah.
grass and lighter colors because I think what
Mm-hmm.
actually where a lot of duck hunters go wrong is they actually wear too dark of camo and it stands out like crazy to a
Yeah.
duck flying above. They see
And
a
there's
dark blob and that's just not
co-
natural.
different color combinations depending on early season, mid season, late season as things begin to turn as well.
Yep.
So you're going to have the warmer greens early season, and then you're going to get
Mm-hmm.
into those tans as things begin to go into
Yeah, as things
hibernation mode.
dry out and everything get later into the fall. Yeah. Let's talk about decoys quick just because you can't just like go out and buy any decoy. It's going to largely depend on what type of ducks you're hunting. So that might again be, specific to your region or whatever. But so for us, like I mean, it's fair to say that the majority of the ducks we're hunting are going to be puddle ducks, which constitutes mallards, um, teal, blueing teal, green wing teal,
Woodies.
wood ducks. That's the majority. Like those are the big three that we see where we're hunting in the time of year we hunt. We will maybe get like an occasional gadwall or something like that. Um, but we're not seeing a lot of the, some of the other species, and we don't hunt diver ducks a lot. We have hunted divers. Those are typically later in the season. As it gets a little colder, they're usually the ones that kind of migrate last from Canada and further north. So um, for our decoy spread, Chris, I mean, how many decoys would you say that a person who's just getting started needs?
You for sure need, I mean, 6 to 10. You for sure need something there to like put 3 here, something like that, maybe 5 over
Yeah.
here, couple stragglers. You got to create something that's not, and there you I mean just Google different wind setups, J hooks or whatever you're going to do to play the wind. But
Mm-hmm.
you have lots of ducks that are flying solo, you have lots of ducks that are paired. So
Yeah.
those types of combinations that are out in front of you, they might bunch up. A couple other ones come in. Now you got like six-ish ducks. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so that's where my mind goes. You don't need 100 ducks.
No, definitely not.
Uh, there are scenarios where that will help greatly, like especially like field hunting.
Also, later in the
Geese
season,
or
I
something
feel
like
like you
that.
need larger spreads in general. But if you're
Yeah.
hunting earlier in the season or like right around opener, you can. I would say like a perfect amount of decoys to own at least would just be a dozen. I think you can do a lot of duck hunting over just a dozen decoys.
And I would check out Facebook Market. There's a ton for sale on Facebook Market when it comes
Pretty
to
much
decoys.
always.
People are trying to. People are like, "Hey, I don't duck hunt anymore. I'm just going to get rid of these." People are wanting to upgrade. They're moving. There's lots of different reasons. That's a benefit because you might get a spread of a bunch of different ducks that you can
Mm-hmm.
utilize, and that way you can throw like the woodies or the teals together. You can throw a couple mallards over here, maybe a goose or two decoy. But again, you're probably not bunching everything all up.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
Chris, what would you say? I have my answer, but what would you say is the best bang for your buck decoy species, like duck species specifically?
I don't know the woodies.
Best bang for your buck?
I guess there's some colors. I mean, my first thought was Facebook.
Oh, I don't mean
uh,
place. I mean like if you were to buy some decoys, uh,
the
what
teal.
what species? I would probably go mallard.
I don't know.
Here's I can give you my
You have to
reason.
know what's flying around.
Yeah.
For one, you got to know kind of where your flyway is, or what what ducks are looking for what ducks. But at the
Hmm.
same time, early in the morning when you have silhouettes on the water, those ducks will come in. You might get a speckling of a bunch of different species really early, like first light, because they just can't totally tell.
Hmm.
When it becomes more daytime, then they're going to circle and they're going to do their scouting and
Yeah.
see what's up. But yeah, we have. I mean, we've always traditionally we started with mallards. We're like
Hmm.
mallard. We got to have the mallards, and then we're like, hey, we need some teal. Hey, we need some woodies, and that's how we've really built it out. Now we have some geese decoy or goose decoys.
Hmm.
I don't know what.
I would argue that if you can get if like you were only gonna go out and buy one species of duck decoy, I would say that mallards is going to be the best bang for your buck because and the reason for that is um, so you're going to want to get a mixture of hen and drake mallards. The real value in a set like that is actually going to be your hen mallards, and the reason for that being is that drake mallards, they're going to have the coloration. They've got the green head, just like on my hat here. For those of you who are watching video, if you're audio only, I'm wearing a hat that has a, a drake mallard on it. Um, so yeah, the drakes are going to have the green heads and all the coloration, whereas the females, the hens, are just going to be the brown, right? And during early season in around duck opener, like kind of that time of year, we're talking like early to third week of September. A lot of the ducks that you're going to have coming through your area they don't have their plumage yet, which means like um, they don't have like all their spectacular colors. So there's actually a lot of ducks that are just like brown ducks. And so if you have hen mallards, they look like a lot of the other ducks that are going to be flying around that time of year. So, like for example, you wouldn't need to buy teal decoys if you wouldn't want, because a teal during the early season or even around duck opener is going to look very, very similar to a mallard hen. The biggest difference is that the mallard is going to be significantly larger because teal are really small. But they'll come in, and also teal are kind of stupid. They'll come into pretty much any spread. they're not they're not really picky.
Or maybe they're bold. Maybe they're bold.
We'll call it that. Sure,
they have courage.
the teal they're very bold and courageous little birds, um, but yeah, I think having a mixture is good. And again, like Chris said, it's just knowing what kind of ducks are in your area, and buy the decoys of the ducks that are in your area. But I would say best bang for your buck. I think pretty much everyone needs to have some mallards in
One other
their
item is
decoy
you
bag.
probably, I mean, you for sure need some sort of light source. So you got to have your headlamp or your a flashlight. Probably don't go
Oh yeah,
flashlight route.
for setting
Headlamp's
up in
the
the
way to
dark.
go, especially for early morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe it's not necessary, but it's super useful, like a sled. Pretty
Yeah,
pretty cheap to buy, but you can throw everything in there. Just make sure stuff doesn't fall out as you're pulling
yeah.
it behind you.
Yeah, the one we
Uh,
use is it's a Chappelle jet sled, and it's just what it sounds like. It's a big plastic sled. It can float and everything, so you can just throw stuff in there. But if you're walking in through some reeds, it's nice not having to carry these big bulky bags of decoys and that
mhm.
kind of stuff. And you just kind of throw all your gear in the sled and pull it through the reeds. And
Let's jump back real quick to the 20 gauge, 12 gauge space
mhm,
and address the fact that you can't just assume your shotgun is ready to go uh, duck hunting. Uh,
mhm,
for those of you who are more unfamiliar with firearms than not, you'll have slug barrels and you'll have bird barrels, rifled barrels. There's some different combinations in there that your shotgun may have, or your grandfather handed something down. So you have to understand what your setup is. And then as far as chokes, which are the end of the barrel at the very end, typically you have a fixed choke, or you'll have a part of the barrel that you can actually unscrew. It's where the choke goes, and you can swap
mhm.
out different choke sizes to get different. We'll just say watermelon to baseball size spreads at different distances. So those BBs are going to come out of that gun. The pellet's going to come out of the gun, whatever your setup is, and they're going to spread out at a certain distance that's optimal
For a certain
for
range, right?
for knocking down your bird. Because you can't shoot 100 yards and expect to be dropping geese. It's probably doable if you're using like a or
Like a turkey choke.
a long range
A
something.
100 yards, that would be insane.
It what I'm saying, I've watched some videos where they shoot turkeys at 100.
Yeah, I wouldn't
I've seen
recommend
some of
it.
that stuff. I'm not saying anybody's going to be
Yeah.
rolling around listening to us doing that, but I'm trying to get the point. Like, you're going to be living in that, probably not 10, but 20 yards to 40-yard range. That's really that kill zone, maybe 50. Like, you and I are pretty good shots, so we've dropped some, more out at the 50. I think we've dropped a couple at the 60-yard range, maybe a little bit
Yeah.
more over the years. Nothing like at the hundreds, but talk to me a little bit about your choice for choke sizes and
Hmm.
what other options that are out there besides the one you like.
Yeah. So the choke size that you use for duck hunting is going to be largely dependent on your setup, and maybe the time of year you're hunting too. Um, there's a lot of variables that go into it. For me, I typically just kind of hunt with a modified choke.
Which is a mid
In
range.
It's kind of, yeah, it's kind of middle range on the choke scale or the constriction scale. That's kind of optimized for, like, you know 25 to 35, maybe 40 yards is kind of like its optimal range. Probably more so in the 30s to 40. And I like that choke size because that allows me to still have, be able to no problem knock down ducks that are decoying into your spread of ducks, or your spread of decoys. But then also it does allow me to reach out a little further if I need to. If you have some ducks that are a little wary, they're still kind of passing by, but they're not fully committing to your spread. Um, another another good choke size for people that maybe, especially for beginners, maybe you don't have a ton of shotgunning experience or wing shooting experience. Maybe you're going to limit yourself to only shooting ducks that come into your decoy spread. For a situation like that, that's going to be a fairly short range shot. For a situation like that, an improved cylinder might be really good. That's a little more open on the constriction scale, so that's going to really be optimized for those shots that are probably 20 to 30 yards, and like I said, for a beginner, that's good because that just means that your spread size is going to be a little bigger. So if you're not as experienced, it's going to be maybe a little easier to hit your bird. The only downside there is if you have birds that are a little further out, maybe not coming into your decoy spread, it's going to be a little tougher to make good lethal shots on moving birds. So yeah, really, if you're really just limiting yourself to only allowing yourself to shoot birds that are coming into your decoy spread, improved cylinder might be really good. Now, if you're someone who has a lot of experience shotgunning and you have no problem taking longer shots, then maybe going to a full choke wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Full is going to be much tighter on the constriction scale. Um, I personally don't hunt with a full choke just because it makes those shots on birds that are closer that might come into a decoy spread. It makes those shots a little harder to make to make sure you hit the bird, because it's like if they're in close, you're either gonna miss them or you're gonna hit them really good. So there's maybe some benefits to that, but those are kind of what I would choose. I just kind of live in the middle of the road with that modified choke. That's my favorite. It's my go-to. I feel comfortable with it. I'm experienced with it, and I know I can make the majority of shots that I need to make in a duck hunting situation. But Chris, what's your go-to, and what are your thoughts on chokes?
I mean, I've really started to lean in the last couple of years towards a long range uh setup, full choke setup space, primarily because um I'm I'm a decent shot, not trying to like be all prideful or anything like that, but I'm a decent shot with my shotgun,
Mm-hmm.
and I like being able to feel like I can actually reach out further if something's getting a little away from us,
Yeah.
or crossing a little bit too far for other guys. I like having guys around me that are in the, have the bigger spread at closer range, the modifieds, or even into like improved cylinder space, because I like seeing others have good success. Like I
Yeah.
want other people to have a good time. So the action, those easier shots when they're coming in, um, I typically lean towards anybody that's new. I like you running a little bit larger spread because I think we just work in tandem well, being both pretty decent shots. But um, I don't know. I've been thinking about it, and I might scale that back a little bit to improve the spread a little bit closer. We haven't missed very many ducks if they get into our kill zone. There's been a couple
Right.
times where we're like, "Where are we shooting?" The duck
those will
gets
all,
the duck
those will
gets us
always
through.
come at some point during a hunt. It's like we didn't hit, like there's like three or four ducks that come in, and there's four guys, and we don't hit a single duck. Like it
It's just
bewilders
wild.
me. It's pretty
I
crazy,
it,
but it
it's
happens.
just I wish we could see it in slow motion, and it'd be like the duck being Neo from the Matrix, and it's like moving its wing past some BBs going by, and um, yeah, I like being able to reach out though, and I think
Hmm.
from a uh previous years we have hit ducks from time to time, or geese, and not had them go down. So then I start to want to live in the vein of aim small, miss small.
Hmm.
And when I get on target, if that duck or that goose goes down, I know that I've got a good hit on them typically.
Right.
Versus when I'm in a larger spread setup, uh, it's not as peppered, or, the amount of BBs entering the animal. So I just want a quick ethical kill,
Yep.
uh, so that I can recover an animal. Nobody has a good time when you wound an animal, it goes down, and then it's running around reeds or like the beach, or wherever your setup is. It's just
Yeah.
annoying and sad.
Yeah. You want it to be quick and painless as possible. Um, Still on the topic of shotguns, Chris, what type of shotgun would you say is best for duck hunting? What do you personally like? What do you run? Are you running a pump? Are you running a semi-auto? You running a single shot, side by side, over under? What are you using?
I mean, traditionally I grew up with two schools of thought. A pump shotgun allows you to not get too trigger happy. It allows
Mm-hmm.
you to not just blow through 3 rounds, uh, and you miss. You're like just letting the shells go, and like sometimes you're hoping that the
Hoping
duck's
one
gonna go
connects.
down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thought process in there. I mean, I would love a I would love a really nice semi-automatic, like a real nice one someday.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something I currently am focused on investing in because we just don't duck hunt uh, or
Enough.
bird hunt enough to justify that.
Mm-hmm.
When I have a very capable middle of the road, I think a nice semi-automatic shotgun. I have a pump, 870 as well. But the biggest thing is, can it cycle and can it cycle well?
Yep.
If you're going to go in that semi-automatic, we had jamming problems with Fiocchi
Or
ammo,
Fiocchi ammo. Yeah.
Fiocchi, and it's the way that the plastic mushrooms out on the top. It was essentially like going too far when it's exploding and sending all the projectiles out. When that's going, it's like mushrooming out. So when
Mm-hmm.
it's coming back to eject in my gun, for whatever reason, their plastic just didn't like my whole ejection
Yeah, their plastic or the way
cycle.
they or like their crimp
Yep.
style on their shell. It's just something weird. It was specifically with the model shotgun we had, because and I think there's one other model shotgun in our group during that duck hunt in Montana that we ran into the same problem. Um, so yeah, I mean, I wish
It ticked me off because we invested a good amount of money in
we
that.
bought like 12 boxes of that ammo, and
We
and
bought a
now
whole.
it
I
I
bought a
can't
whole
use it.
case.
I can't use it out of my semi-auto. I'm like, so I'm going to be using that ammo out of my like side by side shotgun for years. At least it'll probably cycle out of your 12 gauge though, so you could probably still use it.
Yeah, I mean, I could.
Sorry, out of your pump action. I
It'd
mean,
be a decent.
it's a good
No,
duck
it's big.
load.
I think it's two, isn't it? Two, size two,
I think it's size 2. Yeah,
shot size.
yeah,
That's a
it'll be
whole nother
fine.
thing. Shot size. We haven't really
Yeah.
talked about that, but I was gonna say I could use it for dove, but there'll be nothing
Hmm.
left of the dove if I use it for dove.
Yeah. Ooh, that actually brings up a good point, Chris. So we can talk shot size, but um, you just roll up to any store and just buy any kind of shotgun shell that you want and hunt ducks with it.
Yep, you can,
But
but you're gonna need to know what type of shot size for one. You're going to need to know if it's toxic, if there's restrictions on where you can hunt with that. You're going to need to know what gauge of ammo you're putting in your shotgun.
Mhm.
There's lots of different things. There's
I think
different powder loads, so there's certain shells that are going to definitely kick much harder than others.
mhm.
And maybe you are taking your wife out the first time. You probably shouldn't get into the 3.5 inch Magnum
Yeah.
shells or something like that because they're
Um,
going to bruise the shoulder if it's 12 or 10
we're gonna
gauge.
have a short little mini podcast slash episode coming out later this week about how to read your shotgun shell box. This is for you true beginners out there who have like never shotgun hunted before or done much wing shooting. Just kind of looking at a box of ammo in the store, what all the numbers mean, and so you know exactly what you're buying. What I was alluding to though, Chris, with the question is really the difference between non-toxic and toxic because the quick short answer is that for waterfowl hunting or migratory bird hunting, specifically waterfowl hunting, you cannot use lead. It has to be a non-toxic, and non-toxic is going to be, the common ones are going to be steel, which
I
is the
mean, you
most
can
common
use
by
lead,
far,
but you'll be breaking
but
laws.
you'll be breaking federal law. um, you
So
can't even have you
don't
can't
do
even
that.
have so yeah, it's going to be steel, which is going to be the most common and the most economical of the non-toxic shot. There's bismuth, which is going to be a step higher on the
Spendy.
It's pretty expensive, and then tungsten, which is super expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So most people, the majority of hunters, are going to be buying steel. Steel is a lot cheaper than the other two, but considerably cheaper, like maybe even half or even less than half the price. Um, but you cannot use lead shot for waterfowl, which includes ducks and geese and all those things.
I also
So
didn't mention bug spray as one of the probably the things you want to bring.
for early season,
You don't need it,
absolutely,
but you need it.
you'll thank yourself. If you don't have bug spray, then like a thermocell or something. I've actually found thermocells work pretty well.
They're pretty
Um,
fantastic.
yeah, but yeah. So back to shotgun shells. Yeah, you need to know your shot size. So we can just do a little quick rundown. I would say for the majority of duck hunters, if we're talking specifically about ducks, anything. So for earlier in the season, smaller ducks. When I say smaller ducks, I mean like teal, wood ducks, that kind of stuff. Even up to mallards, earlier season mallards. 4-shot is going to be like a good, just kind of all around shot size. Mm-hmm. If you're getting later into the season where it's colder, maybe ducks have put on a little more fat. Maybe they have a little more feathers and down and plumage. A 2-shot's going to be good. And also that 2 is going to carry higher energy out at longer distances because birds get a little more wary the later into the season you get. Um, I have actually started using 6-shot for teal during the early teal season.
I'm thinking about using only BBs this whole season. If a duck survives or a dove survives, good job.
Yeah.
No, that's a total joke, everyone.
Should we talk about some motion decoys? I mean, this isn't.
That's where I was going to go.
Yeah, motion decoys. They're not really. You don't need motion decoys. It's not even really.
But they're
you don't
so
need
fun.
It. They are fun. So why don't you talk a little bit about what motion decoys are, Chris? Maybe the different kinds, what we have in our spread, and do you really need them?
So if you're if you're like truly a novice, and I all of a sudden got this image in my head of some really financially well off guy who pulls up in his King Ranch and walks into Cabela's and he's like, I've never gone duck hunting before. What do I need? He's like, oh, we need one of those. We need one of those. We didn't start out with that ability. You have your motionless decoys that float out in front of you, right? Then we got into like a pulley system, which I still love. I don't even know if I have all the pieces.
I think some of the pieces went missing, unfortunately.
Which really bothers me because I think it's actually really fantastic. Kind of annoying, but fantastic at the same time. Mm-hmm. Because you can link up a bunch of those non-movable decoys on a tether system, and essentially you're creating motion by giving it little tugs. So now the ripples in the water, right? Because when birds are flying over bodies of water and they're looking down and it's glass and they see decoys, but there's literally no ripples,
no movement,
they know that the little feet underneath the water ain't moving and something doesn't seem right.
Mm-hmm.
They just know
ducks are smart. Like seriously, ducks are smart people. Like you can't undersell their intelligence and the things they're looking for.
I mean, you're in their environment and they are looking at everything around them as a threat. Like we're at the top of, up at the farm or the land up there, and we look down on those little sloughs, especially where we shot the turkey and stuff. We're at the top of that ridge, which is probably like near 200 yards, 150, somewhere in there, yards away. And when those ducks down there at different times have seen us, they're like, meh, meh,
yep,
meh. Like they're some guy. There's a guy. There's a guy. And they get up pretty quick and they go off. So, but you have your motionless. Then you can get vibrating. There's battery powered motors in there, and they send the ripples on the water. You get ones that kind of dunk and spray.
That's my new favorite one, man.
Dude, they're fun. So
that's
you get
my
bottom
favorite
feeders
one.
so the butt sticks up. You can get there's lots of different combos. we've really, and then there's the traditional mojos with the wings, so you put them above
Yep.
the water and
Spinning wings,
they're
yeah.
spinning.
So it mimics a duck decoying into a spread. Looks like it's a duck that's flying down
Mm-hmm.
into a group of ducks.
And the ducks really don't know that it's motionless, like the spinners with the wings going, like it's
Mm-hmm.
not actually moving laterally or forward or back or anything like that.
Yeah, they just see the motion of the
Un-
wings and that
until
draws
they're
them
like
in.
right on top of it. Like they'll land
Yep.
all the time and they'll be like, "Hey, that guy's still floating. They'll be looking around.
Levitating.
What's this guy? Guy's got a new trick."
Yeah.
But when you put some of those motion decoys into your spread of motionless decoys, you're going to get the bounce of the ripple off of the other stationary decoys, and then you get the different trajectories of ripples going different directions, and that's where it gets fun because you now have activity on the water, which is really the biggest thing. Are they feeding? Are they swimming around? There's some now that have the little motor that kicks out the water at the back, and actually they swim. Have you seen this?
I have. Yeah.
Which
They're
I think we might need to.
spendy.
I think we might need to get one, Pete. Um, but uh, those are doing the work for you without calling.
Yeah, and they're making the whole spread just seem lifelike and
Yep.
realistic.
Yep.
It makes it look like these are real live ducks. And
Yep.
with the quality of decoys these days, which we've never bought like the super expensive decoys that literally look like a real duck. I mean, I would say our decoys look realistic enough, but
I might say we should not do the spinners this year. I might say we should only do ones on the water that move and splash and different things like that.
except
Simply
we got that
because,
attachment for one of the spinners that when the wings are spinning or whatever,
oh yeah,
it has that little pulley or that
oh
little
yeah,
stem thing that slaps the water and creates the ripples. I really like that.
that's true. I'll give you that. I was thinking about the ones that typically swim into our spreads because I don't know what other people's experiences is like, but we get a lot of ducks that come and check us out from they land a
On the
hundred
other
yards
side of the
away
pond and they swim
or the
in.
other, and they're
Yeah.
like, hey, they're over there, and they come in and they'll come all the way in, and we've shot a couple ducks that get too close and they're like, oh, let's get out of here, and they get up
Mm-hmm.
and we drop them. So do we miss any? I think those are
No,
kind
I
of
think
the.
that pretty much covers the motion decoys. You don't need motion decoys, mojos or whatever you want to call them. You don't need them to get your start. They're kind of a luxury, something you can add later just to add some life to your spread. But you can bring in ducks with just your run of the mill regular decoys. It's just kind of fun to add the different types later, and
I'm
it's
la I'm
yeah.
laughing because and we got on this body of water that we hadn't been on I think 2 years ago, and now it's a really fun spot. But we set up in some reeds.
Oh, I know what you're talking. I know what you're gonna say.
We had some activity. We saw a lot of activity across the water, so we essentially agreed, hey, let's take one of the boats and jet on over there and see what's going on. So we pull out, we go across this body of water, and I'd say, what do you say? It's probably like 100 acres of. It's probably
um,
100 acres ish, 80
yeah,
acres ish,
yeah, probably between 60 and 80 acres somewhere in there.
and we
It's a
get
good
all the
body
way.
of water. It would be considered a lake by Minnesota standards.
We get over there, and got a little bug flying around here. And we're like, hey, there's some activity over here. Oh, this is a good setup, but the wind wasn't right. We just couldn't set up over there. So we're like, let's head back, and we start going back. And when we set out, there was like this island in the middle of, like, there's a channel on the right, and then we're coming back, and then we think we go on the other side of it, and we get back over to the guys, and then we turn around, the island's gone. And
Yeah,
it was this is no joke. It's a gigantic floating bog, depending on the wind, floating around this body of water. So in theory, if the wind would have shifted and came at us without us actually knowing that there's this floating bog in this body of water now, because
could have
it's
crushed
still
us.
there, it would have crushed us into the and stuck. We'd been stuck.
Yep. That was crazy. And then I think the next year when we went back, we saw that that thing in action because we had a pretty windy day, and
Yeah.
we saw just how quickly that thing moved around that I guess we'll call it a lake because by Minnesota standards it's a lake. It's larger than 10 acres.
That's got to be
Um,
a that's got to be somewhat common. It can't. I've seen some bogs around
mhm.
Minnesota lakes,
I've
but
just never seen
never
one
had
do
it
that.
while I was doing that hunting.
Right. That was pretty wild. Um, yeah, so let's talk a little bit about just basic basic setup for a decoy spread since we've established that really you do need decoys to get your start hunting. Um, there's a couple different setups you can do um, in terms of like how you set out your decoys because in theory, you could just go to a spot and just chuck decoys in at random and you'll still have ducks come in. But there are advantageous ways to position your decoys to really maximize the attractiveness of a spread for more birds to come in. So, Chris, do you want to talk about maybe the most common one that I would say the majority of people use and that we've used pretty extensively?
Well, it for sure will depend on the body of water you're in,
Yeah.
especially more open water. You'll see something called a J hook,
Mm-hmm.
and you're essentially trying to corral ducks to land in when you're doing your spreads, you're trying to get a spot where the ducks are going, hey, there's ducks here and here. I can land right here.
In that
And you
open spot, right?
and you're matching it with the wind, which is typically it's just your shooting zone. That's where you want your
Mm-hmm.
shots to go. You don't want to pepper your decoys with BBs or pellets or what It's not going to be a fantastic experience when you're
Yeah.
pulling them out and they've got holes in them now, and you're like, wow, I just invested a bunch of dollars into this.
I guess essentially the way I would kind of maybe explain it is you are essentially creating a
A
like kind of
hook.
like a tarmac or
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
yeah, kind of like a tarmac or a landing zone for those ducks and your decoy spread is going to be what determines where those ducks land and the reason you do that is because you want those ducks to come in as close as possible so you get a good
Mhm.
shot. It's
There's
almost
some
like
other
like a
patterns.
runway at an airport kind of.
Yeah, there's some other stuff that works depending on where you're at or your setup or how deep the water is.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just Google those and look up best
Yeah.
setups for
It'll be like
where the
it can
water is
be
around you.
and it can be species dependent too.
Hmm.
Like your like for teal for example, your setup for teal is not as important as maybe some other duck species. A because teal are really small, so they have a little easier time landing. They don't need as large of a runway. They can land a little easier in lower wind conditions, and so like you can kind of chuck them out at random, and as long as there's some open pockets, like just general open pockets in your spread, teal will just land right in those pockets. Um, Whereas with some bigger ducks, like maybe a mallard, they're going to need a little more of a runway.
Hmm.
Where that so if depending like J hooks are especially useful on a crosswind. So if the wind is going from left to right or right to left in front of you, that J hook is going to run. I mean, it's gonna run and corral them to land in a crosswind. So you're going to have a passing shot.
Yeah, the only setup you don't want to create is where they're landing, coming into land from behind you,
Yeah,
and you're going to want to keep in mind where the sun is rising because you're not going to want to set up your shooting area
looking
directly in the
directly into the
sun
sun.
because it's going to get
Mm-hmm.
hairy for a while until that sun is, especially if you're even while it's rising for the first
Yeah.
couple hours, it's going to be hard.
So like let's put that into a specific scenario. So like a really poor setup, for example, would be is if you had so let's think about the basics here. So
You're an
you
east
you want
east wind.
so you want the wind at your back, okay?
Yep.
Because you want the ducks to because ducks remember they decoy and they land into the wind preferably, and so that means you're going to want the wind at your back so the ducks decoy into your spread. So a west wind is kind of rough because that means the wind's going to be at your back. You're going to be facing east, right?
Mhm.
And the sun rises in the east. So if you're facing directly east, that means the wind's going to be in your eyes. So if you have a west wind, how do you get around that?
Well, you don't be bashful about having like a left to right setup, like putting your
Exactly.
spread out
That's
there
what I'm getting at. I wanted
and
to.
letting the birds come in, because it's okay to let the birds set down into your
Hmm.
spread. Like, let them land. You have 5 or 6 birds that land into your spread. Fantastic. You can always be like, "Hey, bird. Hey, bird." And they're
Yep.
like,
Scare them up, and they get
"Holy
off the
crap,
water,
what's
and
this?" And they get up, and they're getting up slow right in front of you. Let them get a couple, foot or two off the water, and you
so you don't
can,
shoot your decoys.
yeah, you don't want to shoot the decoys. So
Yep. Yeah.
that's what I would say.
So in perfect state, the wind is directly at your back. But if you have a wind direction that doesn't allow that due to the rising sun, then you just switch it up, and rather than have the wind directly at your back, then you set up for a crosswind, so you can still have a good crossing shot. And
And we say
that's
this
gonna.
because
Oh,
we've
go
been
ahead.
guilty of doing that.
Hmm.
I think twice in our all the years of hunting, because you
Yeah.
sometimes you know where the sun's coming up, or well, not sometimes, you know where the sun's coming up, but you're not really putting it all together. You're thinking about the wind, you're thinking about the body of water, you're thinking about, okay, how do I want to do the decoy setup?
Hmm.
You get all that in there, and you think you have accounted for where the sun's coming up, where it's going to be a cloudy morning, and then you've just created a little bit of a funky scenario. So then, 30 minutes into after sunrise, you're like, this is not working.
Yeah. This
You
is
have
not
to move
ideal.
you have to move the boat over so you actually make it work. You just
Hmm.
don't want to be moving around, because screwing around with your setup in the middle of the setup isn't like a no-no. You can do that, especially if it's
If you have a
lulled.
slow period, yeah, a little bit of a
Yeah.
lull. It's not the worst thing in
And
the world. Is not changing
don't be
your spread.
scared to change it up too. Like,
Hmm.
you can't always forecast when ducks are going to come or not going to come.
Right.
We've moved around. We've gotten out of the blinds, and our uncle stayed. We were there all day. We're like, all right, let's go check out the couple ponds behind us. We go walking, and all of a sudden, my uncle's blasting, and he's like, "Yeah, I called these geese in because we heard the honkers coming." He drops some. We're like,
Yep.
"Come on!"
Well,
But
and also like if your setup isn't working, so let's say that you set up in a certain spot and it seems like it's going to be great, and then the ducks start rolling in, but they're not rolling into your spread. Maybe they're really keying in on a different part of the water. You know what? Like if there's no point in being there if the ducks aren't going to come into your spread. So if you see that there's a spot that the ducks are preferring and going to, then take a little bit of time, pull up your spread, pull up
mm,
your setup, and maybe go set up in that spot, because it's better to at least put yourself in the action than to stay in a spot that's ice cold and it's not working. You're there to hunt, you're there to shoot ducks,
mm.
you're not there to watch ducks.
Yep.
So yeah, don't be afraid to make a change and shift if you need to.
So let's blaze through a couple of these things here.
Hmm.
Um, Texas rig versus traditional. If you had a one sentence each of those, give me it.
Okay, traditional. And when we're talking about rigs here, this is literally you attach to your decoy to keep it from floating away. So typically, it's just a line that has a weight on the end of it. The weight sinks down to the bottom of the body of water, and it keeps your decoy from floating away. The decoy can still move around a little bit because that line that has maybe a little bit of or a lack of tension or has a little bit of give,
Yeah,
so it can
don't throw your decoys in really deep water with the
it,
weight doesn't touch the ground,
with
because
a really short.
they'll just float away.
Yeah. So a traditional one is it's literally a cable that is tied to the bottom of your decoy, and on the end of that cable is a weight. A Texas rig is something a little bit different, where the weight is actually like on a slide on
It's on
on
the
the cable.
wire. You can slide
It's
up and down the wire.
yeah, and but then there's a little loop at the end that you can hook up the thing to a carabiner. It's really just an organization system for your decoys, because if you've ever worked with decoys, and if you're listening to this maybe you haven't, it can be a really big tangled mess with those
Pain in the
cables.
butt.
It's a pain in the butt, and a Texas rig cable system on the bottom of your decoy just keeps everything way more organized and clean, and it also just makes the setup and the takedown of the decoys a lot easier too. So I would say, so the Texas rig is going to cost a little bit more, but I would say it's well worth it in terms of your time, your energy, and your frustration. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, we kind of already talked about how to carry those in, and a little bit of that. We typically, if we're in a boat, we're throwing all the decoys in the front of the boat, and we have
Mm-hmm.
a guy running the motor or the troller. We have a troller on ours,
Yep.
and the other guy's the thrower, throws them out and places them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you're going to carry in, Texas rig works really great to throw them over your shoulder, or you'll have them in a duck bag, or you can put them in the sled.
Yep.
Don't know much more if there needs to be said about that, but
And quick little shout out benefit of having a smaller decoy spread, less decoys, less
yep,
work.
less
So,
tangle.
yep.
Choosing. Well, you have duck boats set up here. First of all, you can't have an opinion if you don't have a boat. So you should probably just, if you're interested in doing the boat thing, just understand how heavy it's going to be. If you need other guys to be with you to get it in and out, if it's a bigger setup, you know, you got your speedboat and you've camoed it out, or you know it's your fishing rig or whatever it is, and
Yep.
you've converted it, you're going to need that boat launch. You're probably already smart enough to know how not to get it stuck, and I'll leave it at that. Um, there are other boats with different type of bottoms
Yep.
suited for different type of waters.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
The quintessential duck boat is a John boat. So it's a flat bottom boat, usually 14 to 16 feet long. Might have like a mud motor on the back, with an extended shaft or something for shallow water hunting. But like here in Minnesota, you don't really need a John boat because most of the bodies of water that we're hunting are a little bit deeper. So I would say the majority of duck boats you see here are like V-hull, like a typical fishing boat. It's just gonna depend on where you are and what
mm-hmm.
your needs are. We didn't get into hunting with a duck boat until last year. Up until that point, all the duck hunting we did for the most part, almost all the duck hunting we did was on small sloughs that did not require a boat. It just required a pair of waders or someone with waders to go out and retrieve the ducks, or if you have a dog, even better. We don't have a dog, so we can't speak to that too much. But um, like, you don't need a boat to duck hunt. It just having a boat will expand your hunting opportunities greatly, just because you'll be able to hit different bodies of water, and having a small boat will expand your opportunities a lot too. That's the reason that Chris got the kayak, or not the kayak, the canoe, is because if you have our duck boat that we have is a 14-footer V hull. It's not light. It's not heavy, but it's not light, and it's not the easiest thing to get
Especially when you get all the
into.
gear in it.
Yeah, it's not easy to necessarily get into a body of water that doesn't have a boat launch. Now, we have a couple bodies of water that are, it's, fairly accessible with that boat, but there's still a fair amount of effort that goes into getting it launched. Whereas if you're going to a smaller body of water and there's absolutely no boat launch, I mean, it doesn't get much easier than just, portaging a little canoe and jumping in that canoe and going for your morning duck hunt. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. So I would just, you don't have to get all crazy either. Facebook
Mm-hmm.
specials, make sure it floats, and you can put into a body of water, tuck in some reeds to move around. If you're not doing the motor thing and you're doing the push rod or your pull or whatever, just make sure you got the duck feet. Is that what it's called at the bottom of the pole?
At the bottom of the pole, yeah. So the pole doesn't sink into the
Yeah.
bottom of the body
Bottoms
of
of these
water.
waters are mucky.
Yep.
So that said, blind systems, you can, have removable ones. You can do a permanent duck boat. There's lots of options out there. Just look on Facebook Market. You'll see a lot of different setups. You'll start to get an
Yep.
idea. Some have,
A typical like A-frame blind system that you're gonna see if you search to buy one online is probably gonna be anywhere from like $300 to $500. You can build one yourself if you're handy or just are willing to put in a little bit of time. You can probably build one yourself for under $100.
mhm.
Um, all of our stuff is for the most part DIY when it comes to duck gear, boat,
Mhm.
blind, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so having a duck boat, it creates a lot of great opportunities, and it's a lot of fun because in the summertime, then it can double as a fishing boat if you're into fishing.
Yep.
Um,
Depending on the
but
bodies of water you're putting into, you're going to have to just make sure you understand the regulations. Does it need to have certain safety gear, or you know, you might have a dog, so you might want to consider how you're getting your dog in and out of the boat if he's jumping in and grabbing your ducks, retrieving them. So, and then
yep,
don't buy like a Lund bright red, that traditional, but
yeah,
not do anything with it. again, remember, blending in is the key to the game.
Yeah, you're gonna need to, if you buy a boat on Facebook or something like that, and it's like a, unpainted bright silver or blue or red or something, you're gonna have to paint it camo. There's no way around it. So that's why I always recommend, like, if you want to buy a duck boat pretty cheap, either find one that's already camoed or one that you don't mind painting. I wouldn't spend a couple grand on a fishing boat if you're planning on just spray painting it
Mm-hmm.
essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So um, yeah, I don't know if I really have any other boat tips, Chris. I mean,
I'm really uh, just like let me publicly acknowledge how much I appreciate you for our boat setup. From finding, refurbishing, spray painting, painting, setting, like you did all the work, and even to the down to the point of finding this really nice troller, having it hooked up to these battery setup, lighting, all that. You've made the experience fantastic, and it's been really fun for me to like partake in that. And
mhm.
it's something you're good at, you're passionate about, you enjoy doing those things. So I'm like, how can we make this better? Like I'm the dreamer guy, but you're very much the practical, and I'd like to see us have a second setup at some point, to have both those, because I would imagine eventually we're going to start branching out, not just doing the western hunts, not just doing elk, deer, that type of thing, but
Mhm.
we have a passion to do some very cool duck hunts, and some of those I'd love to go down to Arkansas or get back in some timber or different things like that, or on a river, and um, maybe Texas. I don't know. And
Yeah.
pulling a boat down and doing in that might be the way to do it. So
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah,
there's probably another duck boat build coming up. Not this year, maybe next year. We'll see. We'll just see what happens. But we have talked about wanting to get a slightly bigger boat, maybe like a 16 footer, just a little added weight capacity there, little more size for more people,
mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. But um, yeah, it is really fun having a boat. I will say that. I'd never necessarily thought I would buy a duck boat, but here we are. Now we've got a boat and a canoe.
That's part of the reason we're sitting on here sharing, because this is a passion that you and I talk about almost every conversation. Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't think I would go near obsession. I don't obsess about this hunting space in any way. I enjoy, and it's how I decompress from a lot of the responsibilities
Mm-hmm.
of life. It's how I recharge. It's how some of my greatest bonding experiences have been out, hiking a mountain, being successful, getting the kill, and then sitting around a dinner table. It's like a holistic process from start to finish, and
Yeah.
being able to figure out how you can modify or improve, or how do we uh, even the chase is fun, right? Like even
Yep.
if we're out there and we don't have a good duck volume coming into our spread, just sitting on the boat unplugged is the same kind of
Watching.
same experience as sitting on the
Yeah.
mountain.
Watching the sunrise. Watching the world wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, one of my favorite experiences in all of hunting is sitting on the boat and watching the sunrise
I
over the
just had a
horizon,
terrible idea. You're
over the
gonna hate
water.
this idea, but we should bring our fishing poles when we go out and throw them in, so we're fishing and hunting at the same time.
You know what's funny about that? I don't think that's legal.
Is it not legal?
I'm pretty sure that's illegal.
Let's go to our Google resident scholar again. Is that
Yeah,
is that for serious?
I'm pretty sure that's illegal in Minnesota. I don't know about elsewhere,
Oh,
but in Minnesota, I'm pretty sure it's illegal because I feel like I ran across that at one point. Not me doing it, but I feel like I ran across that law or something.
well, AI overview, the thing that I said I turned off, I clicked off, and it's still giving it to me.
What's it saying?
No, Minnesota does not allow fishing and duck hunting simultaneously. You
Yeah, that's
cannot
what I.
have a fishing line in the water while engaged in hunting waterfowl, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's what I
While a
thought.
combination fishing and hunting license is available for married couples in Minnesota, it does not permit engaging in both activities at the same time.
I feel like that's a weird little AI overview thing, because that was not the question at all about whether or not you can have a combo license that allows you to do both. But yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah, we should probably wrap this up. We're getting a little long-winded here, but let's just do a little recap. You don't need a ton of stuff to get started in duck hunting. I would say you're gonna need a shotgun, you need good camo, you need, let's just say, bare minimum half dozen decoys, pair of waders, and a box of shells, and of course your license, and then you're pretty much off to the races.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there are things you can add into your gear list that will make your life a little easier or a little better. Maybe a slightly larger decoy spread. Duck calls once you get some practice, but overall,
If you're
like,
gonna sit all day, a good lunch, bag lunch,
yep, and something to sit
snack,
on, like something
snacks.
comfortable to sit on, is good too.
Yeah.
Um, and then in terms of tactics, Chris, what did we kind of cover and talk about?
Just know what you're getting and do and what kind of hunt you want to set up for, and
Mm-hmm.
play the wind. Play
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 the
the wind.
wind.
Play the wind. Play the wind. Play the wind.
And make sure that your decoy spread matches the wind setup that you have. And again, if you want to
Mm-hmm.
learn about the most common decoy spreads, look at a J hook, look at a U shape,
There's
V
a ton
shape.
on YouTube.
There's a bunch of different stuff, and they'll even give you like situations where you might use one setup over another. But overall, duck hunting is super fun, and the best way to learn about duck hunting, how to do it, is just to go out and do it. You
Mm-hmm.
might have some really good hunts, you might have some really bad hunts. That's all part of the duck hunting journey. But man, when it is good, it's a really, really hard hunt to beat. That is for sure.
It's fun.
Yeah. So
It's fun.
anyway,
Cool.
look for that little short mini episode that I talked about later this week about how to read your shotgun shell box for you folks who are just getting into shotgunning. Maybe you don't know anything about what the numbers on a box of shotgun shells mean. I'm going to take you through that just so you know what each thing is. So when you go to the store, you can go in with confidence, knowing that you're buying the right type of shell for what you're looking for. But aside from that, Chris, you want to sign us off with our with socials and reminders for ratings?
Yeah. Find us on Instagram. You're better at that than I am.
Okay, I can do
You're
it if
you're
you want.
you're plugged in. No, we appreciate the follows. We need more comments. Like
Mm-hmm.
we would love to have conversation
Yep. Engagement
sparked
overall.
from engaging some of our stuff. So please,
Yep.
if you have a thought or a comment or anything like that, throw us that in the comments section.
Yep. We're on
And
Instagram and we're on TikTok.
mhm.
Um, and then you can also reach out to us via email at readysethuntpod@gmail.com. We do have a website too. You can check that out, readysethunt.org. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple podcasts, feel free to leave us a 5-star review if you like what you hear, and also leave us a review, because when you actually leave a written review, it does stuff to the algorithm that helps us out a lot, makes it so we're able to continue to do this and talk about this and make it worth our while. Even though we enjoy doing it, it's always good to have more engagement from our listeners. So that's all I have to say.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, until next time, quack quack.